Do you like the ink drip look but aren't sure where to start? Grab your supplies and learn along with me as I show you the basics and a few mixed media step-ups. You'll be creating beautiful ink drips in no time. Every technique video is narrated live while I'm doing the technique, so you're getting a real-time view of how the whole process works. Pull out the supplies I'm using and create right along with me, pausing as you need. Before we get started, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel. I appreciate it. On the surface, ink dripping looks like a pretty intimidating technique, but it's actually pretty easy. And in this video, we've got just the basics to start off with, and I'm going to show you a few mixed media step-ups that'll have you looking like a genius in no time. So I'm going to start off with a piece of white watercolor cardstock, and I've got a paper towel here to grab all of our ink drips. Some water here with my brush and some brush markers. Now, I really like the watercolor brush markers for this technique because they are so intense that they create a beautiful look without having to go back and forth with too much ink. And they blend really well together. So I have 4 colors here that I'm going to blend across on my cardstock. I've got a green, a blue, kind of a purplish color, and more of a red color. And those are all going to blend beautifully together. So to start off with, I just have my cardstock here, and I'm going to take just some clean water with a brush and start that dripping process across the top. This will keep you from having to go back into your brush markers after you're done. So I'm actually just creating the drips to begin with just water. So I'm coming across the top and I'm starting to get drips already down the side here. So then I'll take my first color, and of course these you just kind of push to get them to start going, and start putting drops of color along the way. And then I'll come in with my second color, and I want to overlap a little bit so that I get that blending of the two. And as you can see here, the surface tension is eventually going to build up, and those are going to start dripping down. I can work my third color in. And I'm putting quite a generous amount here. If I want to get a drip to go down, I can take my brush and just kind of cheat it down that direction. And then I've got my fourth color here. You can always do this in just a single color. You can mix colors like I'm doing here. Really, the sky's the limit with what you want to achieve. So I have some pretty good drips here. If I want to get those going a little bit more, I can add a little bit of water. And again, just kind of cheat them down a little bit as we go. And I'm going to get a beautiful look here. So when this dries, it's going to be a gorgeous dripped image. So now that we know the basics, let's explore what that looks like with some different mediums already on our card. So this one is a 3D embossed image on some watercolor cardstock. And I'm just going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to start by adding water across the top to start getting some drips to create the rivulets down the edge here. And again, once you get this started, you're going to find that it's easier to get your watercolor to go down. So again, I'll come in with my green to start. And you can see that those rivulets are just starting to come down the edge and follow those water paths that I've already created. So really, you can go back into your clean water anytime you want. If you want to work on one particular spot and get that the way you want it and then move on, you can do that. The watercolor is not going to dry so quickly that you need to work fast. You can take your time for sure. So now I'll go in and add some blue. And if it's looking a little intense or it's getting hung up in a place you don't want to, of course, just add some water, get it to drip. You can use your brush even to get it to go down in a specific direction and just kind of help it along its way. There we go. And let me add in a third color here. And you'll see really neat things start to happen, especially when you've got things in the way. So we've got all these little letters and all of the embossing is kind of in the way, and it creates places where the ink stops and where the ink continues through and maybe a funny different direction. And it creates a really cool interest to the image beyond just being embossed. So again, I can just kind of help it on its way. Maybe make it a little thicker if I want it to be thicker. There we go. And just let my paper toweling grab those drips. And look at this beautiful ink dripped look. So the process is the same for any kind of medium that you might already have in place. So in this case, we've got some embossing paste, and this will work with various types of embossing pastes, whether they're kind of that more plasticky paste or they're more of a foam paste. Depending on the kind of medium, you will have different results. So sometimes it will kind of soak into the paste. Sometimes it will just go around it. And that's going to create a different look for you every time. So this one, I think I'll just do like 2 colors. So we'll just do the green and the blue and get them to blend in the center here. The cool thing about the blend is that, yes, you're going to get a blend, but you might get kind of more of a marbling, which is really a neat effect. So you can see more that it is 2 colors that have blended together versus just 2 or 3 separate colors butting up against each other. So there we go, another look. And as you can see, it kind of gathered around the edges of the embossing paste. In this case, it soaks into the paste a little bit. And once it's dry, it will take on just a slightly different shade. So you can really tell the difference between where the embossing paste is and where it's just the regular cardstock underneath. And then for the last sample here, I've got just a heat embossed piece of watercolor. And this has got lots of little spaces. So we will get some rivulets of water in different places. It may kind of come across a little bit differently. It may get stuck in different places. It may do some really cool things. So again, I'm going to take my water and get it started. I'm already noticing that it gets hung up on these little center diamonds. So we might end up with a really cool look here. And for this one, I'll do another 2 color blend, and I'll just do the purple and the red. So you can see that it starts to follow the pattern a little differently because it's grabbing onto the embossed areas and following that zigzag sometimes. And other times it's just forcing its way right over the top. All right, get the other side here and add some of the red. And there we go. So again, a really interesting look where sometimes it's grabbing in certain places, sometimes it's going around. It just really adds an extra layer of unpredictability to your project that gives it just a really, really cool look. So now that these are dry, you can see how absolutely gorgeous they turned out, how the blend worked together, and how you got such really interesting additions to a really cool texture already on some of these, adding in color and creating extra interest with different lines, very organic looks that really create something special for your next project. I hope you enjoyed this technique and you add it into your toolbox sometime soon. When you give it a try, share it out on Instagram and tag me at Nicole Creates. I always love to see what your creative mind is thinking. Thank you so much for spending a little time with me today. And until next time, happy crafting.